Dear friends, you're in the middle of a summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Kiev, more precisely about the crisis that is brewing right now on the territory of the capital of Ukraine. There are all grounds to declare a state of emergency not only in the energy sector but also through Ukraine. We should have prepared for this in advance, stated Ukrainian Deputy Alexei Kucherenko. Another important statement: there are no forecasts for the restoration of electricity supply in Kiev. That was stated by Deputy Minister of Energy of Ukraine Kolesnik. He also emphasized that we are going into a blackout. In some cities like Irpin, Bucha, Gostomel, it already has occurred. That was stated by Koltunovich. So as you can see, the situation is very difficult, and furthermore, different deputies of the Verkhovna Rada proposed and stated that the capital may need to be evacuated as well, as massive power outages could lead to the destruction of electrical networks across entire residential districts. So most likely he wasn't talking just about electrical networks across the entire residential districts. First of all, most likely he was talking about retail, about supermarkets, about different enterprises that are still working through Ukraine. If you remember, just yesterday we were talking that due to power outages in Kiev and the region, some supermarkets are temporarily suspending operations, according to the retail chain representatives. And you know that this morning we start receiving lots of very interesting pictures and articles about the situation in different supermarkets and shops through the territory of Ukraine. For example, this picture was published from the city of Kiev, and this is not the only picture from the city of Kiev. During the morning, there were published up to 10 or 15 pictures from different supermarkets, and everywhere we could see the same picture: completely empty supermarkets, without bread, without products that people need today, right now. And this is most likely the consequences of power outages and Russian attacks. Some sources are saying that this picture is not something that the suppliers haven't brought products to supermarkets. The sources are saying that people entered supermarkets this morning and they bought everything they could, which also can lead to unpredictable consequences and to another economical crisis. Another important statement is that former Ukraine's President Poroshenko calls for abandoning presidential elections, believes Ukraine has more important things to deal with. We need to focus on the army, on language, on faith, on the European Union, and on NATO. Parliament must declare that elections are only possible when the war ends, otherwise no one will recognize the results of the pseudo-elections. So he's trying to tell us that most likely the opposition of Ukraine will lose during the martial law if presidential elections will take place. Another important thing is that during the previous 24 hours, the anti-corruption agencies began conducted searches at Yulia Tymoshenko's party, and today she was charged of burning deputies, and this is another, let's say, escalation of the political crisis in Ukraine. Most likely she will be arrested, and most likely she will start providing lots of updates, lots of information about Zelensky as well. So the crisis is brewing not just on the territory of the city of Kiev. There are 3 or 4 settlements where we can see huge crisis. The second city is the city of Dnipro. This morning we start receiving updates like this. Patience is running out. Residents in the Dnipropetrovsk, in the city of Dnipropetrovsk, are blocking the streets due to multi-day power outage. For example, on Starochumatska Street in Dnipropetrovsk, local residents blocked the road in protest against the prolonged power outage. The power has been out for several days, and local authorities have responded with zero. Another important thing is that yesterday pro-Ukrainian sources and Ukrainian sources began spraying information and began asking people for strikes and riots within the next days. So Ukrainians are being urged online to protest in Kiev on January 18th against the actions of the recruit centers. drones. So as you can see, the situation is very difficult. There is obviously a political crisis in Ukraine. This political crisis is just at the beginning, but the most important thing is that the coldest day of 2026 is ahead of us. Most likely the coldest day will take place either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or within the next week. Most likely during the same period of time, the Russians will carry out another massive attack with drones and missiles, which can lead to complete blackout, and then the real situation will start. The real political crisis, the real economical crisis, and of course the real humanitarian crisis through the territory of Ukraine. At the same time, Ukrainians continue bombing and attacking with drones the territory of the Russian Federation. During the previous 24 hours, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation stated that more than 100 drones were brought down by Russians in the southern regions. 40 drones were brought down in the area of the Republic of Crimea, and more than 33 drones were destroyed around the Azov Sea. The Ukrainians were attacking the city of Rostov-on-Don, and here we can see a video where the Ukrainian drones were flying above the city, and when Ukrainians were attacking buildings, military objects through the settlement. So this is another video, and here we can see the consequences as a result of attack. One of the drones of the armed forces of Ukraine damaged a building in the central part of the city. Furthermore, we have a very interesting report from the city of Novorossiysk. During the previous 24 hours, the Kazakh companies reported and confirmed that at least 3 tankers were damaged by unknown drones in the Black Sea. So 3 tankers just within previous 24 hours. So as you can see, somebody is trying to create the situation where nothing can leave the port of Novorossiysk with oil or with some products. At the same time, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the Odessa region, trying to destroy its critical and port infrastructure as well. It seems that within the next 6 months, we won't see even a single commercial vessel through the entire Black Sea, which is obviously can lead to unpredictable consequences, not just for Russia and Ukraine, but also for allies and neighbors. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians continued their offensive operation, and today pro-Ukrainian sources confirmed that Russians managed to improve their positions on the territory of the city of Stepnogorsk. As you can see, currently we have a very huge gap between different maps, especially between pro-Ukrainian sources and pro-Russian sources. According to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Russians have just improved their positions around the settlement of Stepnogorsk without taking the settlement under complete control. As for neutral mappers, pro-Western sources and pro-Russian sources, the Russians managed to improve their positions much more significantly and to take under complete control not just the settlement of Stepnogorsk, but also Lukyanovskaya and Novoboykovskaya. As for the eastern Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 24 hours, pro-Russian sources stated that Ukrainians conducted 6 counterattacks in the area of the city of Guliai-Polye, and the Russians are saying that Ukrainians are trying to recapture or to re-answer the city of Guliai-Polye itself with the purpose to dig in deeper, maybe to make a video with flags or something like this. So according to pro-Russian sources, currently the clashes are taking place in this area, and it seems that this part, this gap, this territory between the city of Guliai-Polye and the settlement of Zalizhnechne is more like a gray zone. As for the Bropolye direction, during the previous 24 hours, we have small changes on the ground, especially between the settlement of Sergeyevka and Udachne. So this is the map by the end of the 13th of January. This is the beginning of the 14th. So this video was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how Russians were attacking these 3 lines with FABs with aviation. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that reports that were published by pro-Russian sources several days ago were not so 400% sure correct. As for the Konstantinovka direction, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very important updates. Pro-Russian sources and neutral mappers reported that the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to create a bridge in the Ukraine's defense of the city. So this is the article that was published, for example, by pro-Western source, and according to this report, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly in the southwestern part of the city of Konstantinovka. Now the Russians can easily answer the western and the southwestern part of the settlement through the village of Ilinka, which is a part of the Konstantinovka agglomeration. So we can say that most likely this territory of the Konstantinovka agglomeration is already a gray zone. So we can't say that neither the Ukrainians nor the Russians have strong positions on the territory of this part of the Konstantinovka agglomeration. So there are very heavy clashes. The Russians are trying to force the Ukrainians to fall back, and the Russians are trying to dig in deeper and to create the second foothold inside of the city limits of the city of Konstantinovka. The first foothold was created several months ago in the southeastern part. Now the Russians are trying to do the same in the southwestern part. As for the Slavyansk direction, during the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded. The armored forces of the Russian Federation, according to different mappers, improved their position significantly to the west of the river of Bakhmutka. So these are the changes on the ground between the previous date. This is the situation by the end of the 12th of January, this is the 13th of January, and this is the beginning of the 14th of January. The Russians are moving in fields, trying to shorten the distance and to get as close as possible to the settlement by the name of Frye Alexander. So Russians are trying to take on the complete control of the gap and to get as close as possible to the next defense layer of the city of Slavyansk. At the same time, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the territory around the Nikolaevka and the Slavyansk power station. This is one of the most important logistic hub of the armored forces of Ukraine that Ukraine uses for the military purposes. From these positions, Ukrainians are sending troops and forces further in the direction of the settlements of Dibrovo and Ozerna. Ukrainians are supporting their forces on the line between Zakitna and Krivaya Luka, and from this territory, the Ukrainians are supporting their forces in the area of the villages of Riznikovka, Kaleniki. So that is why the Russians established complete after withdrawing fire control over the territory. As you can see, we have lots of icons right exactly from this area, which means that the Russians knows where Ukrainians are taking their resources to support their defense to the east of the city of Slavyansk. As for the Kupiansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything special, just this video, where we can see how Russians managed to discover another bridge, another pontoon bridge that was created by the armored forces of Ukraine through the river Oskol, and Russians, with the use of aviation, destroyed this bridge, or at least the Russians damaged this bridge. So it seems that the Russians are preparing themselves before the beginning or before the continuation of their fifth battle and an additional counter-offensive operation in this area. And that's it for the short video. Military with Summary channel reminds to we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day.